want to send out some specific thank yous to the open air team, Lizzie, Stoney, and Carrie for championing this work, to my roommates, Becky and Amanda, for being nightly sounding boards, to my cohort, #shoutout Chip Night, to the library team for being so welcoming, and especially for Amanda and Alex for helping make my theater work. My background is heavily in new plays and new play development. I've been doing new play development since 2008 when I was still in university. The first show that I ever worked on was at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe in Scotland. It was like a 9-month workshop process that led to a play that I eventually actually produced at my company at Anaconda back in 2023. And working on new plays and championing writers has been a huge benchmark of my career, and it's been really important to me. I have a series at my theater company where we produce new site-specific plays. We workshop them, we give writers feedback. And I've never really considered myself a writer, even though I've written 2 plays and a pilot of a TV show, but I have been very scared to actually put on the writer hat, which is why this has been so amazing for me, and as I've experienced a lot of growth in this process. Before I tell you what the piece is, the journey with this play is really funny for me because I avoided it for a really long time. And any artist in the room will know that that means that you need to do the thing. And I have a really good vision for what this play is, and I really didn't want to own up to what that meant because I think it felt really hard, and if it's hard, you should just do it. But on our first day when we did our library tour, we all landed on the 3rd floor and we walked past the Montana room. And my whole cohort was like elbowing me and pointing at the Montana room because I told them earlier that I was thinking about doing a play about women of the West and interconnecting them to modern progressiveness and feminism. And the Montana room and the library just seemed like a sign that I just needed to keep going with this idea because honestly, I didn't even realize it was in the building. So what is Women of the West? It's in early stages of conception, but Women of the West is a theatrical exploration of the women of Montana in a way to amplify historical voices and maintain legacy. I do have a deep interest in exploring and connecting specifically Montana historical figures, women, and their ideas and progressive thinking. The idea is women well before their time and maybe finding some lesser known voices that we can amplify. So what the play looks like holistically, if it were to be fully produced right in this moment, is that I envision the story is in 6 acts, not long acts. Don't get stressed out, please. This is not a very long, this is not a you have to be at the theater for 16 hours kind of thing. 6 acts where the women each have their own story. The additional women step in and become storytellers as a way to support each of the main stories. The chorus of storytellers can observe or they can step in and play important characters to help move the story forward. I picture the set is rustic, wood, iron, leather, objects that feel connected to characters. The movement of the actors within the space is very found object, found space, with limitless possibilities to what can happen with everything on the stage and what they can become. The actors can and should move items that become part of the scenes and tell the stories, or use the items on the stage, whatever they are, to sit and observe. Costumes should be period appropriate with a hit of modern, really connecting the women to today. And the show should sound like the time periods that we're experiencing, possibly using music that inspires dance and movement that can be part of the storytelling. It really feels like this concept, the ideas are limitless. Now, the piece of the show you're going to be seeing today, I think is the end of the play. That is not purposeful, but I do think it is the end of the play. And this section of the play features the character Belle Fligelman, who I'm not going to tell you about because you're going to get to know her right now if you don't already know her. This is a pared down version of the idea because we only have 3 actors demonstrating this in the short piece instead of 6 actors. But I wanted to welcome to the stage my wonderful friends, your Missoula local actors, by the way, Jasmine Sherman as actor 1, Rachel Shull as actor 2, and playing Belle Fligelman is Lynn Solomon. And enjoy this short excerpt from The Women of the West.
I'm always so fascinated by people who journey all the way to Montana, to discover their roots, to connect with nature, to find themselves. I suppose we are all searching for inspiration. We find it in the most unexpected places.
Belle Fliggleman?
Yes.
I'm Diane Sands.
Oh, a pleasure.
I'm ready for you. Won't you come in?
Okay.
This is Diane Sands interviewing Belle Fliggleman Weinstein on August 10th, 1977 for the Montana Women's Oral History Project. Now, most people know this, but you were integral to the suffragist movement, yes?
That is my legacy, among other things.
You were born in 1890?
1891.
So you are...
I'm 86 years old.
How fantastic.
I'm grateful to be given the opportunity to be this age. Not everyone is so lucky.
You were born in Helena?
Yes, Helena.
You have a sister?
Frida. She was a year old when I was born, still my best friend.
Your mother passed away shortly after you were born?
Yes, she must have been about 20. Too young.
Shortly after she died, your aunt came and took care of you and your sister?
Yes, with my father in Helena. Shortly after my aunt moved, Helena became the capital. It was the capital before, but it was challenged by Anaconda. And I remember there was a huge parade when we won. It was fantastic. I remember it vividly, though I was only 4 at the time.
And what did your father do?
He had a general store. He called it the New York Dry Goods Company.
When did he travel here?
Well, he left Romania in 1882, I believe, to come to America. He was fed up with Romania and wanted to come here because of the promises of gold nuggets on the streets and all that. Things weren't exactly what they were promised.
I would agree with that. Why not stay out east? What was the drive to go west?
I started working with the crew that was building the railroad out west. I remember him telling the story of lining his pockets with sandwiches to sustain him on the trip, not realizing the company was paying for all of his meals. He found that out once they landed in Montana.
Were they attracted to Helena because of the strong Jewish community here?
Oh, no. Just excited to go out west.
So let's move forward a bit to 1913-ish. There's a long history of people making a choice to stand up for themselves, for their communities, fighting for equality in so many ways. And the suffragist movement was a part of that. But we can't forget that people fighting for what they need was not a phenomenon that came out of the suffragist movement. It's a human experience to stand up for yourself, both personally and hopefully politically.
Agree? It's been going on well before I was involved in the suffragist movement. Hundreds and hundreds of years.
Looking back, what was your overall view of the suffragist movement? Tell me the idea as if I've never heard it before.
That women deserve to be part of the government. The voice of the government shouldn't be limited to men. Women are worthy of government appointments. Just giving women the access to be involved. And of course, it's important that we all have a voice.
1914 is when the suffragist campaign was, is that correct?
That's correct.
How did you come to the movement?
It was because of Jeanette Rankin and a completely unforeseen set of circumstances. I was working for the Montana Daily Record in Helena.
Mama!
As we look towards the future, there has never been a more paramount time for women. In this day and age, the woman's obligation, poetry, is less complicated than writing about the state of the world. Why would one willingly choose to report on the state of the world? Why would I choose willingly to to report on the state of the world. We should be using words to plant seeds so that those seeds can blossom into flowers. The flowers, though unique, showcase who we are to each other and expose our souls to the world. It is unfathomable that one could find joy in writing about the state of the world. And yet I persist. The suffragist movement is about women, its determination. It is about community, not just about women. Inspiration. I need inspiration. Do you have anything for me? Something to get me started? Oh, what was that?
That! Exciting news!
Yes.
We're just gonna send you out to Lewistown.
Lewistown.
Lewistown!
I have never been to Lewistown.
Neither have I. Jeanette Rankin is speaking and we need coverage. She's a suffragist. I'm not sure if I believe in all that. It's about a woman's right to...
I know what it is. I know who she is. Jeanette Rankin.
Of course, that's what I meant.
What? You do not believe women should have the right to vote?
You know I don't discuss politics in the workplace.
I'm aware.
Speech is tomorrow. We can get you lodging. You need a driver?
I will drive myself.
You sure? Positive? We can send a man with you.
No need. Much better way to travel.
Okay.
I have never reported in Montana outside of Helena. Are you sure?
You've never really reported anywhere until now.
Well, I was the editor of my school newspaper, which you may recall from my application.
I would take the opportunities when you can get them.
Yes, sir. And your first woman staff member on the road. On the road.
Belle Fliggleman, are you gonna make me talk you into this?
No, sir. I'll go.
Good. This seems like it would be right up your alley. After all, you are a woman.
Indeed, I am. Thank you, sir. And I have been searching for my way into the suffragist movement, to talking about these women, a source of inspiration.
I hope you find what you were looking for. That's inspiration.
Inspiration? I suppose I am. I am headed to Lewistown to find it. See you soon, old friend.
This is one of the grandest days that has ever happened for women all over the country. Women are asking for the vote, and you know that what a woman asks for, she usually gets. And we should have the ballot. We are a force in life, a factor which must be considered in all life problems.
We are a force in life. The room seemed to stop or move in slow motion. I tried to take it all in. I was present, but overwhelmed and inspired at the same time.
I can only imagine.
I saw so much of myself in her and the women around me, the drive, the passion, the want for improvement, the need for more.
And when you were tasked to go to Lewistown, did you know what an opportunity this was?
Yes and no. I was aware that it was an opportunity, but I could have never surmised what came next. I was also struck and in awe of the joy Jeanette seemed to feel by her own opportunity to stand in that space and talk about the movement. There were so many intelligent ideas being shared. Early in her speech, she compared our government to mathematics, that if you don't look at all the factors, you won't ever be right. And that it would be impossible for our government to be right unless they consider all women as part of the conversations. Loved that.
What a unique way to make that point. She conveyed that wonderfully.
Though Jeanette wasn't a writer, she did have a way of conveying words, and she was a wonderful speaker. I also remember in her speech that day, she said that for democracy to evolve, this important next step needs to be taken. And now women were able to work in factories and so many other advancements for women. But all these moments of forward movement are important benchmarks in society. And the next logical step is the vote.
I have a quote from her speech here that's always been impactful to me. It starts, until women also
Have the power to influence the laws which govern them, their protests will be restricted by the fear of losing their jobs. The employer cares nothing for men and women as such, but in votes, whether they be cast by men or women, he is mightily interested. This is where we have the power. We want votes too, for women in the home. Do you know that a woman who rises at 6 to cook her husband's breakfast, who gets the head of the house off to work, and then takes care of the baby, dresses and feeds the children, sends them to school, the woman who scrubs and coos and irons and bakes and sweeps and mends until she has to cook dinner and get ready to entertain her husband all evening, is listed in the census report as without occupation. This woman is as much a worker as any other of us and needs the same representation in government.
Women need the same representation in government. She was aware of what voting and contributing to the government had done for the working man, that the control was no longer entirely in the hands of the rich, although obviously it's hard to deny that the rich are immensely ingrained into our government, but she pointed out that passing of labor laws was powerful, and that working people should include all workers, including mothers.
But most of all, we ask for the vote for the sake of the mother. When women have the power to use their superior knowledge of matters which concern them most, they will be able to increase their efficiency. Votes for women bring happiness into the home.
Instead of making us come before you to ask for the right to vote, you should be trying to force the ballot on us, for you will benefit by our betterment.
history was made that day.
History was just beginning.
Thank you for having me here in Lewistown. Have a good evening.
I'm Miss Rankin. Belle Fliggleman, the Montana Independent Record, Helena.
Helena, that seems like quite the journey. And alone?
It was, but I enjoyed it. Yes, I drove myself.
Grateful to have so much of the press is here. Nice to meet you, Belle.
I hope you already understand this. But in case you are unaware, you are making history. For women and for our country, it would be irresponsible not to be here.
Thank you for your words. Good evening.
Miss Rankin,
Yes?
I have been looking for inspiration
Inspiration? In what way?
in my writing, in my life.
How do you feel right at this moment? Being in this room, beside this community of women?
More inspired than I have felt in a long time. Now that I have heard you speak, I feel inspired beyond myself. I am inspired to do more, and I'm thrilled to be able to write a story about you and share what you are accomplishing with more women.
Can you come back tomorrow?
Pardon?
We have another rally. Not only would the press be helpful, but it would be incredible to have more women in the room. Women like you, who are moved by the cause. You might find even more inspiration should you choose to come.
I'll be there. When Miss Rankin came forward to speak, the air was electric.
You keep using the word inspiration. You were looking for inspiration and you found it in Jeanette?
I did, yes.
How did she inspire you?
By her courage, it impacted me and my writing on a deep level. Motivated me to be part of the cause. After we met, she became a very good friend and a highly respected colleague.
You done with that piece on Miss Rankin?
Yes, Here you go. Is it possible to have tomorrow off?
Why? You were just in Lewistown for 3 days.
I know, and that was not the plan. But I was invited by Jeanette Rankin herself to stay.
Yes, you said that, and it seems to have profited a wonderful article.
And a follow-up.
I see. So what's this day off for then?
Have another trip for research. I promise what I discovered I will use in my work.
And where are you headed?
Augusta, Montana. I am so lonely and desolate, yet happiness buds out of me like the tender shoots along the trunk of a withered tree, whose entrails have been gnawed away by the storms, but whose initial sap seems inexhaustible. Thank you, dear Sister Frida, for your words. Always help me get the strength to carry on, even in the loneliest of tasks. And this one might be just that. Augusta. In Lewistown, Jeanette talked about coming to the street corners, to the town you live in other places in our great state, to bring the message to whoever will hear it. That being on the ground with the people helps reach the people. If they won't come to the movement must come to them. This is as good a spot as any. Women deserve the right to vote. Equality is the sacred law of humanity. Women who are in the workforce, and even more so, women who are running households, deserve the same rights as men. As women, we demand to be seen and heard. We demand the right to vote. We demand to be seen as equals to men. Middle-class women are expected to stay at home, but even if you are at home and taking care of your house, you deserve to be heard. You deserve the right to vote, for your voice to be heard. Not just being voted on behalf of by the head of your household. Your individual thoughts and opinions. Women deserve the right to vote. Equality is the sacred law of humanity.
Jeanette was elected to Congress right after women got the right to vote, that is.
She was. And is still the only woman from Montana ever elected to Congress. That was the first vote that we cast ourselves, after we had fought for it. It was almost like our big thank you to her for everything she had done for us, for giving us the right to vote.
Did she give that to you? Or do you feel like you also worked for it?
Of course. I feel like I added value to the movement, but I am sure if it hadn't been for her organizing us, it wouldn't have happened.
And you worked for Jeanette around this time?
I worked for her for a year after we first met.
What were you doing for her?
She had to write a weekly article. I assisted with that. She wasn't as well versed in writing as I was, so I helped.
Her ghostwriter.
I suppose you could call it that. It was fantastic to help turn her brilliant mind into written work.
It seems like beyond political figureheads, you had a lot of support for the suffragist movement.
Oh, it would have been impossible to pass, if not.
A lot of women who were not involved in the movement for suffrage directly, ordinary women, were supporting the efforts from their homes, weren't they?
Well, yes, they were. But I hardly think of those women as ordinary. I think they were doing a wonderful job in their homes and also supporting the effort.
Do you think you could have accomplished everything you worked for in the suffragist movement? Have you met all of your aspirations?
I've spent a lot of time thinking about that question. How do you measure success? I've spent a long time working on this cause. I think the work that we have done has hopefully set up women in the future to have a seat at the table, to accomplish more. And I don't just think that table is for women, it's for men and women to work together. The best qualified people will always be able to earn there are places at that table, and oftentimes that's a woman. There are plenty of qualified women.
Seat at the table. That's the dream, isn't it?
Well, the table is metaphorical.
Sure.
Men really do think that you can accomplish a lot by sitting around a table. But I think women know it takes more than that. It requires movement in many ways. The activation of a movement requires connection in communities, big and small, having hard conversations, standing up. And that was strong in the suffragist movement. I think that any person, man or woman, who believes in the cause enough, they have to get involved, be out in their communities, make their voices heard.
I think the suffragist movement proved all of that. You were all activated in communities big and small.
That was the mission. We wouldn't have gotten where we are if we were shy about getting our voices heard.
Later in your career, you followed in Jeanette's footsteps and you yourself ran for office.
I did. I ran for Senate. It was during the Great Depression, and frankly, it was a hard time to run for anything. Hello, ma'am. No. Hello, I hope you're having a good day. I am Belle Fligelman-Weinstein, and I'm running for Senate. Good day. I'm Belle Fligelman-Weinstein, and I am running for Senate. Do you have a minute to talk about my campaign?
Why do you need a job? You're a woman. Does your husband not take care of you?
It's not about the job. It's an opportunity to be a voice for women. Hello, ma'am. I'm Belle Fligelman-Weinstein. I'm on the ballot for Senate. I'm hoping I can count on your vote. My
A woman running for Senate?
I'm here on behalf of myself, Belle Fligelman-Weinstein. Hopefully I can be your smaller but better senator this term. Oh, that is my foolish joke. That's about my short stature. I'm using my platform to create a statewide children's bureau. My hope is to create this so that state government can tend to the needs of orphan children. Do you care about the orphans?
Who wouldn't care about the orphans?
Can I count on your vote?
Well, I have to ask my husband's opinion.
But you do have your own vote now. Please use your voice. I'm Belle Fligelman-Weinstein, and I'm running for Senate. What an honor to meet the woman of the House.
The fields are dried up. The economy is depressed. The out-of-work men who can no longer provide for their families should have these jobs.
Pardon my frankness, ma'am. But women deserve the right to be active in our democracy just as much as men do. And I hope you will consider the place women have, not only in our homes, but in our government. Good day.
And unfortunately, you were unsuccessful.
That's true. I think despite women being interested in female leadership, their families and livelihood took precedence. I didn't understand it, but I had to accept it.
But even with that, you have accomplished so many things in your lifetime. You must be proud.
I think I'm proud. At least I try to be proud. Huge strides were made in the years I have been alive. That's undeniable. But I think what I am most proud of is thinking ahead to possibilities. The legacy we are leaving, and what can grow from what has already been accomplished. If women continue to unapologetically stand up for themselves, that would make me the most proud. That would be our legacy.
Legacy. What does legacy mean to you? Looking back at your life at 86 years old.
Fighting for women. In many capacities. My successful campaign to allow women to serve on juries. Being a journalist, an author. I've even written poetry and plays. I hope that the writing and marching and fighting I have done will be impactful in the legacy of Montana and beyond. I've also had immense pride in the life I have led, being a mother, being a wife, being a daughter and a sister. And lately I've been helping others discover their legacy, especially in Montana.
Yeah, I saw that you have spent some time over the last couple of years working with your husband and helping other folks find information about their genealogy, their connections to Montana.
It's been really fascinating. A lot of folks have Montana roots, obviously, myself included.
And you said they come here to research? All the way to Montana? What a journey.
Not dissimilar to how we all got here. But yes, just last week my husband took a couple from New York around to the courthouses to look through records and help them discover their past.
That's fascinating.
I wonder sometimes why people travel all the way to Montana and come to Helena to research their roots. That may be similar to my ancestors coming from Romania and landing here, and in that process discovering more about themselves and building a life here. I'm always shocked about how many paths lead to Montana. And when people find that out, they get curious, as anyone would, so they come here, drawn to the West just like the early immigrants. And they almost seem to cling to it, the past. I wonder sometimes if curiosity is connected to the disorder and commotion all over the world today. Maybe that's the catalyst. The upheaval of the world is the motivation for wanting to discover more about yourself, to ground yourself in a place when places and meanings seem hard to find. I told myself once that if I ever do get reincarnated, I want to be a tree. A Douglas fir, ponderosa pine, tallest blue spruce that any human has ever seen, so that I can see for miles and miles, know where I am, but that my roots are firmly planted in the ground, in this place, in Montana, forever.